What's up, humans, and welcome to a new Psicoactivo. Happy Monday, everybody. Okay, so today, the video that I'm going to cover, I'm going to do a few today because there's a lot of material. I'm really excited about a couple of them. One of them is actually going to be about Chris Bledsoe. And tomorrow, Jesse Michaels is going to release his episode with Chris Bledsoe. And I already did a video about this, sort of about some of the dangers that exist within UFO based religions and cults. There's a lot of history there that I've covered a couple of times. And I think that the Bledsoe family is part of this, maybe indirectly, because honestly, I don't think Chris is doing any of this on purpose, but the effect that it's causing is concerning. And I do have to talk about this prophecy and I do have to talk about Ryan Bledsoe, but that's going to be for a different video. For today, I don't know if you guys remember this, but um, we finally have an explanation to a cryptic tweet that is now deleted from none other than Dennis Asberg, the oceanologist who works with Dr. Beatriz Villarroel and who made a comment about this little clip from the Disclosure Day trailer. So here it is.
Kansas City. Let's take a look at today. Let's today is today's
So we've already gone through what this sound potentially represents. Um, to me, there's many different possibilities there. There are African languages that do speak like this. For instance, that's a prosaic explanation. There were engagement farmers who were like, did Steven Spielberg use the real voice of a real alien for? No, dude. No, he didn't. So there are others, for example, this man who claims to have contact with an alleged alien being named Bashar. Polari Josh did a wonderful video about that. I'm going to leave it in the description so you guys can check that out. But when this came out, there was a tweet from Dennis Asberg that he now deleted. And it's this one. And Dennis said, I recognize the sound. You know what I mean. And then Dr. Villarroel said, I do. And then she was like, I'm not saying anything. So now we have a more thorough explanation of what Dennis meant. And I'm going to show it to you. Here it is. So let's read it, and I'll tell you what I think this potentially means and what might actually be going on, because I don't think they are alien sounds, but I do think that it needs exposure, and it is concerning because of the work that both Dr. Beatriz Villarroel and Dennis are doing. If you guys don't remember, Dennis is actually looking into the Baltic Sea anomaly, which looks really strange. I'm going to post a picture here while I tell you. And Dr. Villarroel has published two papers about these astronomical plates from Palomar Observatory, where she found these transients that still have not been debunked. And they tie into the 1952 UFO flap from Washington, and they tie into the Mansell conspiracy. I'm going to leave links in the description for videos that I've done about that in the interview that I did with both Dennis and with Beatriz. But this is what Dennis said. He says, to answer your question about why I wrote what I did to Beatriz, long before this trailer was released, before I even knew the film existed or that anything like this was coming, Beatriz and I experienced something unusual during our phone calls. Several times while we were talking, the call suddenly broke. At the same time, we both heard strange sounds on the line. There was a clicking or mechanical like sound, and then the call dropped. We both heard it clearly. This happened on three separate occasions. It wasn't only the clicking. During one call, something felt off. So I said, hello, to check if she was still there. What came back was a slow, drawn out, hello, hello, much slower and different from the way I had spoken. On another occasion, the clicking started again, and then there was what sounded like a female scream. That's how it came across to us. Of course, that doesn't mean that's what it actually was, but that's how it sounded. All of this happened long before the trailer was released and before I had any idea the film even existed. I'm not saying it means anything specific. It could be interference, a technical issue, or some kind of disturbance. It could be many things, but the sound reminded me strongly of what I later heard in the trailer. That is why I wrote to Beatriz and asked if she recognized the sound. Nothing more than that. It was just something that made me pause and raise an eyebrow. So, yeah, this is what happened. There is no weird conspiracy theory going around. What they heard was probably an interference. Yeah. And it is really concerning because of the work that Dr. Villarreal is doing. This is something that has concerned me about her for a while. That somebody has their eye on her and they're constantly looking what she's doing, her entire activity, and Dennis's too. And I think this is something that needs to have more exposure. So if you can, please share this video far and wide so people know what could potentially be going on. Because if Dr. Villarroel and Dennis Asberg weren't doing work that is very important to this whole topic, nobody would keep tabs on them at all. And they are. Dr. Villarroel has many more things that are happening to her that she's not comfortable discussing. And I completely understand that. And we have to respect her wishes. But it is concerning that there are, or there seem to be, entities, intelligence agencies, I don't know what, who wiretap phones, who spy on people who are involved in this, and who are constantly looking at every single activity we do, both online and on our phones. And that is a very real thing. I'm going to tell you a little story. This is how I came to know that this was happening because it's happened to me as well. Back in 2023, before I even emailed Christian Harloff to tell him that I was doing and writing stuff about UFOs for Marca in Spain. By the way, that section of UFOs still exists to this day. I'm going to leave it in the description so you can see what I wrote about. I wrote many articles. I even did a play by play of the hearings with David Grush when I was in Marca. In early 2023, one of my headlines was featured on the Joe Rogan Experience. Even Joe posted that headline on his official Instagram account. When he had James Fox on his show, they showed my headline. It was a headline about Space Force and a statement that one of the generals did, where he said that there was already activity going on in space, which was a really strange headline to read. And it puzzled Rogan as much as it puzzled me. He showed it to James. They spoke about it. I was freaked out. So that was weird. I had to restart the video because as I was talking, the thing just froze. So I don't know. Where was I? Yeah. Rogan showed my headline to James. They were talking about it. I was really freaked out. And during that interview that Rogan did with James, he gave out his email. And I decided to send him an email just to see if anything happened. This was before I emailed even Christian Harloff. To my surprise, James responded and he gave me his phone number and we started talking. The very first time we even thought about messaging each other and we texted each other, right after, I received a phone call from an unknown number. Nobody was on the other end. I said hello, and they were just there. They didn't speak, and I hung up. Then I received another phone call from another unknown number, and the same thing happened. And I just told them that I wished no harm to anybody, and I hung up. Since then, I told James, and he was like, "Oh, yeah, they have taps on me all the time. I would think that they have taps on you now because you've communicated with me." So since then, I've only assumed that they're listening to what I'm doing. And especially now that I'm more connected now and that I have been doing this work, I would assume that they have taps on me as well. So this is just so you guys know that this is not fantasy. This happens, and it's happening to Beatrice, and it's been happening to a lot of people in this community who are trying to find out what's going on. They don't want us to find out what's going on, and they will do anything they can to prevent us from reaching that truth. But the way I see it is, as long as you don't do anything illegal, and as long as you don't go about and just hurt anybody or get into senseless fights with people online or create more enemies than you probably need, I think that you should be fine, even though you may be surveilled at a certain point. That's the way I see it. That's what I try to do. Yeah, I have my sources. I try to protect them. Yes. But I always also try to be as frontal as I can, as respectful as I can. And I do try to stay away from all the drama that has been going on since I got here and even before that. There was this really interesting clip from Chrissy Newton, who's friend of the show. She talked about the potential idea of UFO Twitter being created by intelligence communities just to keep tabs on everyone. And I think that is absolutely within the realm of possibility. So,
So what you said is an extremely important part for most people to know in the UFO community, because why do you think UFO hashtag, Twitter was created? I really wonder if it was created from more of a government source or government program to be able to monitor rhetoric in the UFO community in one location.
Yeah, who knows? They don't even have to monitor from one location anymore. All you have to do is put in some keywords and then bang if you're the NSA, all that chatter comes up.
Just makes it easier.
This word
that's what we're dealing with. I just wanted you guys to know what happened with that cryptic tweet from Dr. Villarroel. It's a very real thing, and we just got to keep an eye out for everybody. And the more exposure that this type of surveillance and behavior gets, the better it's going to be for everybody, and the more protected people will feel, because these bad actors are not going to move against people who are very public and who are very known within society, and who are not engaging in any type of illegal or deplorable activity. I think the ones who are the ones who are the most in danger. That's why I keep cautioning against getting into battles and doxing and all that stuff that goes on UFO Twitter. That's the reason, because those are the easier targets, the ones who do engage in that type of activity. Food for thought for everyone. Let me know what you think in the comments about Dennis Asberg's explanation, about the tweet, about this language. Do you think it was just wiretapping, or do you think that it was something else? Because it is very similar, according to Dennis and Beatrice. That language that is spoken in the Steven Spielberg film, it is very similar to what they experienced and to what they heard. And it was creepy. It did creep them out. I think it's surveillance. Maybe it's something else. You let me know what you think. I'll be reading everything. If you like the content you see, I'm going to ask you to like, share, hype, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. That's all you need to do in order to help us, and it is what helps us the most. So thank you. But if you want to support us in other ways, there's a few links down there you can choose from. You can also become a member on YouTube. You can also become a member on Patreon. We have 5 tiers on Patreon. The way it works and the way they set it up is that they take care of everything. They create the merch. You only have to be on Patreon for 3 months or pay for 3 months on each tier. And depending on the tier you choose, that's the item Patreon will send directly to your house after the 3rd payment. That's the way it works. Or you can also support us through KGRA. Anything you choose to do is always appreciated. So thank you. That's it for me today on this video, but I'll see you guys in the next one. Remember, stay curious and inquisitive like Dr. Beatriz Villarroel and Dennis Asberg. Always. Bye.